Wilbur smiled at her in response before driving off. Faith turned to look at the table full of food. She was starving just a second ago, but had somehow lost her appetite. Wilbur drove for a short while and arrived at Sea Lake Island. Sea Lake Island was the resort villa that the Owens family had spent a few $100 million on building. An island was built in the middle of a lake, equipped with hotels and entertainment spots. It was quite popular tourist destination in Seachertown. Wilbur parked his car outside, then walked along the bridge. Just then, there were around a dozen people sitting in the square in the middle of Sea Lake Island. There was one chair in the middle, occupied by a man in his 60s. His eyes were bright, flickering with traces of spirit energy. He was the head of the Owens family, Jeremy Owens. Standing behind him were his two sons, Ian and John. On his left and right were the other two major clans of Seachertown, the Torrent clan and the Lilith clan. These two clans were historical family names of Seachertown. They were both incredibly powerful, second only to the Owens family. It was 8 o'clock then, and Jeremy looked around him. "I'm sure you know why I called both of your clans here. The pride and reputation of our clans shall not stand to be tainted, and someone must be responsible for something happening to one of our people." Gerard Torrent and Matt Lilith, both the heads of the other two clans, nodded in agreement. Jeremy smiled at foreseeing the two clans' obedience. As the top dog of the Seachertown clans, it was important for him to show his authority once in a while to keep everyone else in their place. Just then Wilbur's figure appeared on the bridge. He crossed the lake, stepping into the island. He was immediately surrounded by the clansmen. They blocked out all the paths around Wilbur as if worried that he might run off any moment. Wilbur chuckled, continuing to walk until he reached the middle of the square, where he looked around him. "You brought quite a crowd with you." The three clans had around 40 to 50 people with them. Wilbur showing up alone did, admittedly, look a little lame in comparison. Jeremy glanced at Wilbur, hardly paying him any mind. "Are you the one who killed Lightning Hank?" "Indeed," Wilbur answered without hesitation. Jeremy smirked coldly. "You've got some nerves." "Very well. I'll get straight to the point. John, you go. It's about time you let your Uncle Matt and Uncle Gerard see how far you've gotten with your fighting skills." John nodded, striding towards Wilbur. Gerard smiled. "This nephew of mine is highly skilled. I don't think I'm quite deserving to comment on him." "Yes, the kids are growing up fine. We're all getting old now," Matt said politely as well. Jeremy said nothing, smiling as well. Just then John had already walked up to Wilbur. It was clear that he did not acknowledge him. John looked Wilbur up and down, shaking his head. "You're so weak. I honestly don't understand how Hank managed to die by your hands." "Maybe he just deserved it," Wilbur said lightly. John's gaze narrowed and he let out a cough before walking up to a large rock a few meters away. The rock was around 3 meters wide and 5 meters tall. John let out a loud cry as he clenched his fist, and they began to glow faintly. Following that, he breathed out before throwing a punch onto the rock. A crack sounded through the air and the rock shattered into pieces at once. "Good job!" The men from the three clans could not help but erupt into cheers. Just then John put his hands behind his back and looked at Wilbur. "Do you think you can take one punch of mine?"